All right, so we're going to continue Pirkei Avot, Pirkei, chapter 5, Mishnah Yud, and we'll also do Yud Aleph, 10 and 11. Now we're into categories of 4. These are very interesting categories because we're dealing with human nature, human character, individuals that we meet up from time to time in our lives. It is important that we should be able to identify them. There are certain things that identify an individual to what class he belongs to. In other words, class, what kind of temperament, what interests him. There are things that we can pick up about people very quickly. As the rabbis tell us, Adam nikar bekiso, bekoso, ubecha'aso. An individual can be recognized pretty quickly by seeing how he behaves bekiso, with his pocket, how he spends, on what he spends, how much he spends, bekoso, how he drinks, when he drinks, what he says when he's drunk, and beka'aso, during his anger, during his time of anger, how often he gets angry, on what he gets angry, how long does the anger last. These are ways of identifying people. Obviously, there's a lot more to know about an individual, but there's some things that give away a lot. And there's some things that stand out more than others that are very difficult to conceal. So we will see, what we will see in the next two Mishnayot are pretty important, fundamental characteristics that tell us about a lot about the individual. Even though they are certain midot, there's specific characteristics, but they tell us a great deal about the person in other areas of life as well. So let's begin. Arba midot ba'adam. There are 4 types of characteristics that can be seen in individuals in the area of giving. Giving, actually in the area of giving and taking. As you know, you may have heard the saying that in this world there are givers and takers. So here, in the act of giving and taking, a lot can be seen. 4 different types of attitudes. When it says 4, it means that these are the basic ones. I mean, obviously some people are more of this, less of that perhaps, but generally this is what you will find. האומר שלי שלי, שלך שלך, זו מידה בינונית. What we're going to see now is individuals who sometimes care more about their property and are not willing to share. But even though they're not willing to share, they're not necessarily going to ask you for favors either. Okay? There will be individuals who will want to share. You share with them, they share with you. And there are individuals who are very giving and don't want anything in return. And then there are all those who are very nasty, let's call them. They don't want to share, they want everything that you have for themselves too. All these types exist in all cultures throughout our history. Nothing has changed. You will always see these people in society. But before we get into the details, we have to remember what the Rambam says. The Rambam says that when it comes to character, behavior, there are different types. So adopt for yourself always the midah benonit. Because there are all kinds of characteristics, all kinds of behaviors, just remember that extremes are no good. Here, for example, we're not talking about tzedakah necessarily. We're talking about itnahagut klalit, general behavior in various aspects of life. Best way is midah benonit. Be normal. Don't go to any extreme, for the most part. All right, if that's the case, what we find in the very, very beginning of the Mishnah is a midah medonit. We find arba midot b'adam ha'omer sheli sheli v'shelcha shelcha zu midah benonit. If one says, listen, whatever is mine, my property is mine. I don't like to share it. My house is not open for guests. I don't lend things. I don't lend money. I don't lend my possessions. Sheli sheli. V'shelcha shelcha. And whatever is yours, I won't bother you either. You may have heard there's a motto, a slogan in Israel, Ten lichyot. Let me live. It is a way of saying, don't get involved in my life, don't tell me what to do, and I won't tell you what to do either. So these individuals don't hurt anybody. They actually respect your privacy and your property. On the other hand, they don't want that their lives should be exposed, that their privacy should be exposed, that they should, be used in any way by others either. So why is this called midah benonit? Because it portrays, to an extent, an individual who doesn't really want to benefit from others, which is good. When it says midah benonit, it doesn't say bad, it doesn't say excellent, it means there's something okay about it. What's so okay about it? Well, at least he does not want to benefit from others. He's not going to bother others, he's not going to infringe on others, he will respect others, right? So that is why, it's not so bad. It's not a bad midah. Just that he doesn't want to be bothered either. Okay. Live and let live, as they say. What's interesting, however, about it is the next line. V'yesh omrim zu midat sdom. Wow. This opinion is pretty much the opposite. It says this midah is the midah of Sdom. This is the character of the people of Sdom v'Amorah. That's terrible. Well, how could someone say this is a midah menodin and then the other one say this is midah Sdom? The reason for that is because as much as this midah is in some way or to a certain degree acceptable, the person doesn't have to ask people to help him. We will see the benefits of that later. And if he doesn't really want to go out of his way to help others, he wants to live his life by himself, he's not a bad person. But Yeshomim Zumi that's done because at times, those who are in need, what are we here for? To help those who are in need. In other words, what's going to happen with the poor? Who's going to take care of them? So to adapt this midah at all times can lead to midat sdom. So Yeshomrim Zu midat sdom, in other words, it could easily lead to a society that will behave itself like Sdom v'Amorah. In other words, even though there are some valid or acceptable aspects of this kind of a character of a person who doesn't really extend himself. Remember, we're not talking about tzedakah here necessarily. The person that doesn't want to extend himself, doesn't go to parties, doesn't invite necessarily people, but he doesn't ask you for favors either. So he's not hurting anybody. On the contrary, he's behaving himself just fine. Yes, the problem is that one aspect of it is no good, and that is that at times when we're dealing with people who are in need, not those who are not in need, but those who are in need, then you have to help them. So you can't just lock yourself up completely. You can be a hermit to an extent, if we can borrow that term, hermit. You know what a hermit is, right? Right? A hermit, right? One who just lives by himself, right? Bibdidut. In other words, he's completely isolated from society. He lives in the forest. That's a hermit. There's nothing wrong with it. He doesn't care for the people. Doesn't get along with them. Doesn't like them. For whatever reason, and he may be justified sometimes. If the people are no good, he wants to live by himself. But there are times you need people. Not only do you need people, people need you. So therefore, to apply this midah, to live by this motto all the time is not good. Zu midat sdom. It can have, or it can lead to a person not wanting to do any tzedakah as well. So it's not always 100% a good midah. Now, you know what happened in Sdom, right? People of Sdom were very narrow-eyed, tzarut ayn, right? They didn't want to share with others what they have.
Chasis.
Worse than chasis. It's cheshtang. Yeah, right? You know people like that? Yeah. Unfortunately, they exist. Yeah. So what happens is that there are times when ze nehene v'ze lo chaser. The rabbis tell us there's a concept called ze nehena v'ze lo chaser. You can help somebody, and you won't be losing out anything. Let's say you give somebody a hammer. He won't destroy the hammer. You lent him the hammer. He needed to build a sukkah. Did you lose anything by giving him the hammer? No, the hammer came back to you the same way. And he gained. So he gained, and you didn't lose. When a person gives money, he feels he loses. Okay. But there are situations of this one gains and this one didn't lose. You didn't lose anything. So why not give it him? Right? What happens if let's say you have a phone plan on your cell that is free, incoming, outgoing, unlimited as they call it. Not free because you pay for it, but unlimited. And somebody asks you, you're not using the phone, you're at the airport, oh, by the way, can I make a quick phone call? Right? Would you lend it to him? Why not? What's the problem? I mean, he's not going to break it? Unless you suspect he's going to run away with it, perhaps. Okay, yeah. But assuming everything looks okay, why not? You have nothing to lose. I once tried it at the Las Vegas airport. I just didn't have my phone. I don't remember what was the case. And I was there the first time, and I didn't know where to go. It was confusing. Somebody was supposed to pick me up, and we didn't make up where to meet. It wasn't clear, and he didn't come, and I didn't know if I was standing in the right place. So I asked the guy, can you lend me your phone? I says, no, my girlfriend is supposed to be calling me any minute, and he's all excited about his girlfriend. Oh no, she won't take it, she won't allow it, she won't tolerate it. If I'm on the phone, some excuse, Anyway, I just took my card. I didn't have change, and just used a regular phone, and paid for whatever it was to make a regular phone call from a those phones are airport phones, and that's it. I said, why try asking anybody here, favors? I didn't want to ask a favor. I figured, let me try one guy, So, what are you so particular about it? What's the big deal? Zenehna, he's going to gain, and you don't really lose, So it shows. It really shows. If people are eager, or if they're not eager, they're okay about it. Go ahead and use it. You see? So you can see a lot about people from all kinds of small little details. So we have the first individual was a midah benonit, right? Mine is mine. Yours is yours. What about the next one? Sheli shelcha v'shelcha sheli. What's mine is yours. That's very nice of you. But what is yours is mine too. I call this one, number 2, communism. Because that's what communism is. You share. Nothing belongs to anyone. Everybody's property and possessions belongs to the state, belongs to everybody. Nobody has any of his own. Here the Mishnah calls it Am Haaretz. One who says that or lives by this is an Am Haaretz. What's an Am Haaretz? An Am Haaretz is a plain, ignorant person, not a very educated, not a very sophisticated person. It doesn't say Rasha. It doesn't say this is bad. It says this is an Am Haaretz. So we need to understand why the Mishnah calls this an Am Haaretz. This is very interesting. If you ever wonder what the Torah, what kind of an economic system the Torah believes in, the Torah does not believe in communism. If you learn the Torah, right, read the Parashiyot, learn the mitzvot, you have no indication whatsoever of communism. There's some socialism, right? It is a theocracy. Judaism is a theocracy, where there's a king, which also is optional. We don't have to have a king. We can lead our lives through prophets, through Chachamim, and just rely on Hashem. But we have that option. And it's based on religion, of course. But what about the economy? How does the economy run? It's very, very close to capitalism. What's capitalism? Capitalism basically says opportunity. to advance yourself, to become wealthy. Why not? Nothing wrong with that. On the contrary, if you're wealthy and you are successful, you can accomplish a lot with money. Now, money is dangerous. Of course, we know that, what it could do to people. But we see from the Torah that there will always be rich and poor. Ki lo yechdal evion mikerev haaretz, the pasuk says. There will always be poor. There will always be rich. Hashem created a system where there will be rich and there will be poor. So the rich should help the poor. So basically this supports, to an extent, capitalism. Advance yourself, initiative, ambition, aspire, improve, make. Don't let just the government do everything. They won't do everything. There's corruption in the government. There is selfishness. There is politics. So that can hamper growth. So if you allow people to expand, allow people to grow, you get a country like the United States of America that in some ways, you see how it is blessed because of opportunity, freedom of religion, and all other ideas that enabled people, not just the government or the country, but enabled people to succeed. It's not that the very few are rich, like in some country, the oligarchs of Russia, right? Or in Saudi Arabia, right? In some countries where just a very few, here you have a lot of rich people. So when a person says Sheli Shelcha v'Shelcha Sheli, it's Am Haaretz. So why is he Am Haaretz? Am Haaretz means that he thinks this is a good system. It proves that he doesn't have too much brains. He doesn't understand how the world operates. He doesn't realize that his method of conducting business will not succeed. Imagine him saying, okay, whatever is yours is mine, whatever is mine is yours. Do you think everybody's going to respect that in a society? Why did communism fail? Because there was never a pure communism, true communism. True communism works, but it cannot exist. It's only in the theory. It cannot exist because we don't live in a utopia. You know what a utopia is? A perfect state of affairs where everything is perfect. Yesh tzedek, v'yesh yosher, everybody's just and honest. When Mashiach comes, it's going to be utopia. Right? Utopia? Beautiful. Then, who needs rich and poor? Everybody has what they need, and everybody's comfortable. Why ask for more? Even though, it may not necessarily be the best form of economy for other reasons, but in a perfect state where everything is just right, no wars and peace and harmony and everything, yeah, why not? Okay, yours is mine, mine is yours. Okay. The Torah says no. The Torah says there's a certain degree and importance in respecting the privacy of other people. You can't just come whenever you want, invite yourself over somebody's house, right? It's not nice. So that all fits into this. A person who says, I'm your buddy. It's Am Haaretz. It's like, let's be buddies. Whatever is yours is mine. Let's drink, let's eat, let's share. No, that's a very, very low level of understanding. It's not an individual who's able to grasp the pros, the benefits of a society where there is distance, a little bit of distance, privacy, and so forth. That's why he's called an Am Haaretz. Does not fully understand the repercussions, the consequences of this kind of an attitude. Next, Sheli Shelcha, whatever is mine is yours. V'Shelcha Shelcha, whatever is yours is yours. In other words, I will gladly share what is mine with you, and whatever is yours, I don't want it. I don't need it. Thank you very much. Who is that? Hasid. Shh. What is a Hasid? It doesn't say tzaddik, it says Hasid. Hasid, let me see if I can remember the word for it in English. A tzaddik is a righteous man. A Hasid is righteous, of course, too, but is an individual who does beyond his call of duty. Tzaddik does the right thing. He's a righteous man. He does what he needs to do. Hasid does more. He's very generous. But it's not just generosity, it is an individual who is kind, giving, right? Forgiving with people. Those are the qualities of a chassid. So here you have an individual who does not mind. On the contrary, he actually is willing to share, and he has no qualms about it with others, but he doesn't want to have others lend him money. He'd rather stay away from asking people for favors. This is a very good midah. This midah, however, does not indicate in any way that he's a sucker, as we say in English. He's not a friar, as we call it in Hebrew. He's not somebody that is going to just allow people to take advantage of his kindness and just hand out money. Oh, you want my help? I'll give it to you. It doesn't mean that. It means more of a quality or characteristic of nechonut levater. He has the willingness and he's prepared to be easygoing and forgiving with others, flexible with others. In other words, he doesn't insist on having certain things for himself or being first in line. So remember, we're not even necessarily talking just about money. Just in general, this type of personality is an individual who is willing to help others. He cares about others, but wants to stay away from having people do him favors. How is this possible to develop? This is possible because a chassid is not born a chassid. A chassid actually works on himself to become like that, and it's mostly as a result of bitachon b'Hashem. Faith or reliance in trusting God means that Hashem provides for me. I don't need people's help. Hashem can always make it happen in other ways. I'd rather not have to come unto them, rather not have to beg them and ask them for favors. Beautiful midah. The rabbis talk a lot about. Try as much as possible to stay away from having to come on to people. If you can at all get along on your own, make your Shabbat a simple meal, the rabbis tell us. Make your Shabbat sardines and crackers. Right? It's a simple meal. If that's what you need to do, but don't ask people for favors. If you have nothing, then you have no choice. Then you don't want, especially if you have kids, you don't want them to suffer. Then you have to ask for a loan, and don't worry about the loan. Hashem will pay you back, because you're beautifying, you're honoring the Shabbat. You will always have a ways to afford that. But if you can get by, even though it's a little, okay, aseh Shabbat chochol, make your Shabbat a weekday meal, a snack, not a big meal, not a fancy meal, but don't come on to people. So we see from various examples in the Chazal, the rabbis tell us, stay away if you can from asking people for it, because it's not such a good thing to get used to. Chassid, therefore, has the required outlook. His outlook is, I trust in Hashem. I don't need gifts. I don't need their help. And therefore, as much as you can do without having to come unto people, it's much better. So a chassid is a very beautiful midah, something that, however, needs to work on. The last midah, sheli shelcha, no, that was sheli sheli v'shelcha sheli. Mine is mine, and yours is also mine. Oh no. If anybody ever tells you that, run away from it. Sheli, sheli, v'shelcha sheli. Wow. Now, the Mishnah says that this exists, so it's not made up. It's not in fantasy land. There are people like that live by this creed. Whatever is theirs. And whatever belongs to others is also theirs. First of all, what does that mean? This is a rasha, an evil man. Okay, so we need to figure this one out. There are people that will attempt in any way to get their hands on that which is not theirs. Why? Why would somebody want that? Why would somebody attempt that? Get their hands on something that is not theirs. Aren't you happy with what you have? No, I want more. When somebody tries to put his hands on something that is not his, the root of that, the shoresh, what is bringing that on, is ta'avot, our desires. In other words, if somebody does not have that many desires and is happy and content with a little bit, then of course he would not even think of taking somebody else's. He's not even working hard to get it on his own. So what gets people moving, what gets people to steal, it's not just because they want something for free. It's because of ta'avot. I saw a documentary recently about, in South America, little kids being caught stealing bicycles. Bicycle, a car, radio, whatever. So of course, when he was caught, he first lied. Oh no, I bought this. Ah, come on, the police told me you didn't buy this. You stole it. No, tell me about it. How much did you pay for it? He was lying. The kid was lying. Until the policeman tells him, but what are you going to do? There is actually a video of you going to the place where the bike was parked and breaking the cord. So he gives up. The kid finally realizes that he was caught. So the policeman says, why did you do it? So the kid tells the policeman, it's not for the bike, trust me, he says, policeman. He says, I don't need the bike. I simply want to sell it because I'm an addict, he says. He's addicted to drugs. Miskin, he needs to sell. And that I believe that's true, probably. He would sell this for, a couple bucks, and he would get the drugs that he's addicted to. This is a big problem, by the way, in today's society, all over the world. Addiction is expensive. And what do you do when you don't have the money? They steal. So there's a ta'ava here. There's a ta'ava that needs to be satisfied here. A rasha is full of ta'avot. He's not controlled. He has no control, no discipline, so he has ta'avot. And part of the ta'ava sometimes pushes him to take advantage of people. Lenatzelotam. To take advantage of people that not necessarily have money, not necessarily the wealthy. Otherwise you can claim, he's a Robin Hood. He's only stealing for the wealthy. No. Once a person has ta'avot, he doesn't care. He will take advantage of all kinds of situations where people are not looking, people do not know, they're naive, just to get a hold of his ta'ava. So here you have rish'ut, you have a certain wickedness or evilness in the system of this individual that is pushing him to take whatever he can get his hands on, whatever he can get his hands on, because he's full of ta'avot. So, what this tells us is that we're not necessarily talking about a thief. Not necessarily. It's simply a person who has tava v'chemda. He desires, he covets. It's not a thief. There are thieves, serial thieves. In other words, they just take. They rob, they sell what they stole, what they want. No, we're talking about somebody who is not necessarily a thief, but he has ta'avot. And he may do all kinds of things in order to get his hands on this because of his ta'avot. That's why we just read last week's parasha. In the end of Aseret HaDibrot, it says, Lo tachmod. Lo tachmod, pretty much at the very, very end of Aseret HaDibrot. Lo tachmod. At the end. That's the foundation. In other words, that is a very, very important foundation in fulfillment of the Torah mitzvot, is that the person should not have that yetzer hara of desiring that which is not his. Because chaz v'shalom, if he has that and it's not controlled, it will get out of hand and it will lead him to transgress all the Aseret HaDibrot, the whole Torah kula. Just from chemda, from ta'ava, he will come to steal, swear falsely, murder. Right? One will lead to the other, just from ta'ava and chemda. So that's why this is a rasha. Rasha meaning that the midah that he has, the midah of ta'avot that are unrestrained, uncontrolled, can lead him to commit all the wrongs and all the evil And of course, that's what makes him a Rasha. Next Mishnah. Arba midot badeot. This is fascinating. We're going to talk now about 4 types of temperaments. Temperaments meaning character that we constantly develop. In other words, we are born with certain tendencies, with a certain temperament, but we're constantly evolving. We're constantly developing it, depending on our upbringing, on our friends, on our education, and so forth. So even though we may be discussing some difficult ones in this Mishnah, we have to keep in mind that all of these can be improved. Even, and the same is true with the previous Mishnah. I mean, you can always aim to be a Hasid. Here with Midot, never think I'm born like that and that's the way I am and that's just me. And that's him. No. Arba Midot Badeot, but you can definitely work on a certain Midah and improve on it, refine the character. And that is why it's important to know what they are and to see if any one of these applies to us, because if it does and it's not one of those good midot, then seek some help in trying to help yourself with it. The midah that stands out in this Mishnah the most is kas. In other words, the Rabbi that discusses this Mishnah chose to use an example of where you can see 4 attitudes, 4 different temperaments that relate to kas, to anger. So anger, we know, is usually bad. It's a bad temperament, except for on a few occasions where you have to show that you're angry, not necessarily be angry or get angry, but show that you're angry. But other than that, in general, kas is looked down at. It's the rabbis speak a lot about the dangers of it, how bad it is, how Hashem stays away from this individual, and so forth. And because kas is a very, very difficult midah to correct, they asked Rabbi Yisrael Salante, Zechet Tzadik Lebracha, who lived over 120 years ago, what to do to eliminate it. Well, since it's such a terrible midah, what do you recommend that we do if somebody does have it, that he should be able to control it or get rid of it, he said. So the Rabbi answered, one of the best cures is to develop a counter midah to that. And what is that? Kindness and generosity. If a person is generous and kind to others, he will eliminate or neutralize completely his kas. He says, if anybody has kas, and he can develop in himself this countermeasure, it will tip the balance actually. It will not just balance it, but actually tip or neutralize the kas. The midah for doing that will be midat ha'atava, he says. Be generous, be kind, be giving. Acquire the midah of giving, and in this way you will neutralize or tip the scales in favor of being a better person and not an angry person. Okay, so the Mishnah begins, there's 4 kinds of temperaments. Noach lichos v'noach lirtzot. Yatzas scharo be'efsedo. You have the first individual is easy to anger, quick to anger, impulsive, but he's quick to be appeased. He calms down very quickly. Yatzas scharo be'efsedo. The gain, the benefit that he has of calming down quickly is lost in the fact that he angers so often. So even though he has a benefit here, or an advantage that he can calm down quickly, it's a great thing to have, it's almost unseen and it's almost not that helpful because he gets angry so often that what good is it? In other words, it's basically almost lost because of his bad midah of getting angry so often. So I saw a nice commentary that says like this: Noach lichos v'noach lirtzot. You have here the word Noach twice. And it was easy to anger, but easy to appease. Noach lirtzot is obviously, we're going to see, a very beautiful midah. The individual is easy to appease, he calms down quickly. But you have this, in this particular case, the first individual, he's also quick to anger. This individual, if he would need to work on himself, okay, he would have a hard time. He's very quick to anger. And we're going to talk a little bit about what he can do about it. But he's going to have a very hard time because it's always coming to him. It's always after him. He's always getting angry about all kinds of little things. A lot of things bother him. However, one thing that he should keep in mind is that it is easier to find a reason not to get angry than to find a reason to calm down. In other words, once a person's gotten angry, to calm him down, you have to think of something very creative. It's much more difficult to think of a way to calm himself or to calm him down than to think of a way to prevent anger. Follow me? So, when an individual has this problem, in some ways, he can't tackle it before the anger comes. That's the time for him to tackle it. Because once the anger has come, even though he's going to calm down quickly, we cannot calm him down so quickly. We can prevent it. It's easier to prevent the anger from coming, from setting in, than once it has set in, to make it calm down. So the question is, nevertheless, what should we do with somebody who's temperamental like that? If you know somebody that gets angry very often, but calms down quite quickly, the best advice is what they told me in Denver. When I first came to Denver, they told me, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. It changes very fast over there. He says, this guy is blowing up, just wait 5 minutes. Don't yell at him, don't argue with him, don't answer back. The best thing is, he'll calm down. 5 minutes later, you'll see he'll forget it. If that's the type of person he is, let him be. There are people like that, get angry very quickly about anything, but they also calm down. So don't argue. The best cure for him, and for us with him, is let him be. Don't argue. For him, he should realize, obviously, that it's going to be easier for him to tackle the anger before it sets in than after it's set in, because once it sets in, he's going to lose control. So he should think about it. Does this pay to get angry about? Anger causes tremendous strife, tremendous tzarot, pain in life, heart attacks, you name it. It's a very, very terrible midah. Somebody who has it, therefore, requires what we say in Hebrew, an avodah yesodit. Requires a thorough workout. And perhaps I would even borrow the term operation on him to extricate this, or extirpate this particular midah. One way to understand how to remove a midah is by a root canal. We've spoken about this in the past. What happens in the root canal situation? The tooth shows maybe some decay, and the person is a little bit in pain, which is coming not from the tooth, but from the nerve. And the doctor says, listen, the root is not healthy. We better remove it. Why remove the root? So if you know anything about dentistry, if you don't remove the root, and the root continues to be not healthy, it will damage the tooth. You will eventually lose that tooth. The gums can become inflamed. It could be a very unhealthy situation to allow a nerve, the root, to remain in its unhealthy state. So what they do is they do a root canal where they remove the root. And then they cap it, and fine. So you've lost a nerve. No more pain. Great. Now the question is, I say to myself, when I ask the doctor, the dentist, I have a great idea. Why not do root canals to all the teeth? Even if you don't need them. Just get rid of all those roots. They're troublemakers. All those nerves. They bring on the pain. They cause the trouble. Just come on, one by one, get rid of all of them. Once and for all. The dentist is going to look at you. Where'd you come from? But why not? Why not do that? Do we have any benefits from the root at all? Hashem put that root there for a reason. What's the reason? What does the root do for the tooth? Huh? Who needs it? It causes pain, trouble. It's going to fall. It's going to cause the tooth to fall off too. So just get rid of the root. Who needs the root? But obviously, a tooth nourishes from the root, just like a tree. Roots, yeah, it receives some sort of nourishment. It does. They'll tell you that. If that's the case, there's a need for it. If possible, if at all possible, keep it there because it does a lot for the tooth. If we have no choice, we remove it. Okay? So what do we learn from this? That obviously the best scenario is to maintain your health. Maintain your health so you don't have to eliminate the root. Maintain the health of your tooth, take care of it, brush and floss and do everything else so that everything can stay healthy. Okay. How does that fit in with us? When a person has a problem, he's an angry person. There's several ways that he can deal with it. He can make a root canal. What's that? I'm not going to let anything bother me. I'm going to be completely cold and indifferent to anything that happens. Is that good? No. To be cold and indifferent, not to react, we need to react. We need to deal with situations. To just ignore and not deal with anything, if somebody does something wrong. Yeah, I'm going to remove all sensitivity. That's what a root is, right? I'm removing all sensitivity. I'm going to be adish, as we say in Hebrew. Adish, indifferent. Nothing's going to bother me. That's very nice, but it's not good. It's not the best situation. Because ideally, you need to interact with people, you have to respond to them, you have to do all kinds of things. And indifference means that you completely remove any sensitivity to the situation. So it's not the ideal, healthy situation. Okay, then you have another individual who is not going to do a root canal. He's just going to live with it. He won't tell anybody about it. Won't go to the dentist. Who is that? He's an angry person, but he learned anger is terrible, so he keeps it inside. He doesn't yell back, doesn't show his anger, and he's morose, brooding. You know what that means, you know? That deep down, he's really suffering. The pain is there, right? That's going to kill the tooth. That's eventually going to... It can't be like that forever, for too long. You can't do that. You can't hold it inside either. So you see, you can't do either of those two. So what do? You need the root, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But more than the root, you need to have a healthy lifestyle, a healthy tooth. You've got to take care of it. You got to deal with it. You got to deal with the issue. So how do you deal with it? You go to anger management classes. You don't just say, no, I'm eliminating it, I'm destroying that nerve, I'm going to be made out of steel. Nothing will move me, nothing will hurt me. No, you can't do that. That's no good. I'm going to keep quiet, I'm going to hold it in, you're going to explode. At some point, how much can you contain? You got to deal with it. There's an issue there, you got to deal with it. You got to be healthy. When a person takes care of his health, meaning he's going to have a healthy outlook. When we're talking about midot, you want to have a healthy outlook. To have a healthy outlook, we need to learn Torah. How does the Torah tell you to look at this? The Torah says when somebody insults you or spits in your face, it was meant to be. Oh, really? Yeah. No use getting back at him. No use getting angry at him. No use punching him in the face. They sent you something from above. Somebody in the street doesn't know you from anywhere and shoves you. Why is he picking on me? Mishamai. You see, this attitude can only come when somebody has bitachon b'Hashem, learns Torah, and understands a little bit more about life than the average person. He understands that everything is b'hashgacha, everything is from above. That helps somebody control himself. Well, why get angry about havalim? You're going to get angry about silly things? Before you know it, you have to leave this world. So why get angry? Why be upset that you couldn't get the latest car? That you just came out of the dealer with a 2014, if they have them already, Lamborghini. 2014. They must have it already by now, no? Anyway, as soon as you get out of the dealer, somebody gave you a scratch. But you have insurance, don't worry about it. And even if you don't have insurance, gamzula tova kapara. Not everybody reacts like that, but that's what's necessary to deal with anger. Is deal with it in a healthy way. Getting back to the roots. We need the roots of the teeth. We need the roots of anger in ourselves too. Wow, we need the roots of anger? Yes. We all have roots for anger. Because anger, just like any other midah, needs to be used at certain times. We have to be upset at reshaim, at the wicked. We have to show our kids that we're upset, to show. Not to be upset, because you know. So there is a time for it. Very rarely. But there's a need for it. Besides that, all these midot that we have, all these shorashim, the roots that we have from all the midot, are not necessarily meant to evolve in becoming angry, an angry tooth, in other words. The roots are there because just like the tooth nourishes from the root, the human body, the human soul, nourishes from all the roots that are inside. It makes us grow in life. We face challenges in life. And because of the roots that we have, we're able to be strong. We're able to deal with it. We're able to feel for someone. Challenges bring out all that potential. Though that potential comes from the roots that we have. So we want to have the root for this, for this, for this, for that. It doesn't mean we're going to use it. As we're going to see later on, the rabbis tell us, be ferocious like a leopard. Really? Like a leopard to be ferocious? Yeah. You want to use the ferocity to do the will of Hashem. You don't want to be lazy. Right? Have a az kanamir. Kal kanesh, swift like a deer. Don't be, right? Gibor kari, courageous like a lion. You need the courage. Not that you should be like a lion in a negative way, right? In a positive way. So a lot of these roots are there for a reason, because they can be channeled to positive energy. So therefore, a positive attitude in life comes from a healthy state of being. Just like a healthy tooth is as a result of, preserving the health in the mouth and eating right. So a positive attitude, a positive outlook on life comes from clean roots, which comes about through, of course, preserving the health of the roots, working on the midot, refining them, keeping them under check, under control. All right, so we saw the first one, who is quick to anger and quick to subside or to be appeased. He loses out because he gets angry often. That he who is slow to anger but slow to appease. Oh wow, once he gets angry, for the next 20 years he's going to remember it. He's not going to calm down. He won't want to look at you or talk to you. There are people like that too. This is no good. But Yatsa hefsedo bischaro. The disadvantage that he has, that he's very difficult to calm down, is neutralized or canceled out with the sachar, with the benefit that he has, that at least it's only once in a blue moon that he gets angry. Once in a while. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Which of the first two is worse? The one that's quick to anger but quick to appease? Or the one that's slow to anger but very, very slow to appease? The majority, I think, of commentators agree that the second one is a little bit better. Because the first one is always getting angry. Always getting angry. So always getting angry is a terrible midah. The second one, of course, he has a terrible midah that he's slow to appease. He's so stubborn. But at least he's slow to anger. It won't happen that often. To get angry very often is a terrible thing. A lot of damage is caused from a person who's getting constantly angry. Much more than the second one who gets angry once in a while, but then he's very slow to anger. Very slow to appease. How do you deal with this guy who's slow to appease? It doesn't say impossible to appease. It says kasher. Kasher means it's possible, but it's difficult. So you have to work on him. You have to be creative. You have to find somehow a way to soften him. But you should know it's not impossible. Now the reason, I saw somebody explain the reason why it says lirtzot instead of lehitratzot. It should have, the Hebrew should have been lehitratzot, to become appeased. Here it says to appease, which means that one should never wait that he should become appeased from others speaking to him and calming him down. A person should be hopefully smart enough to realize that anger is not a good thing and he should appease himself. That's what it says, noach lirtzot. Litratzot means to become appeased by others doing something to you, speaking to you. No, don't wait for others to talk to you. Between husband and wife, sometimes this can happen. There could be issues. Don't wait for her to say, I'm sorry. Don't wait for her to explain. Try to calm down. Try to appease yourself. That is the right midah. Before we go to the last two, a person that really has a problem with anger can really help himself by developing patience, tolerance, understanding of people. When I gave a series about astrology, I basically pointed out that one of the reasons that I spoke so much about it at length is that by understanding what the makeup of people is, how people function, how people really are, we will come to give them the benefit of the doubt. We will come to realize that it is their nature. It's not that they're being nasty. They're being themselves. That is their nature, and it's very difficult to change the nature. So when we know the nature of a person, that's the way he is, it's easier for us to relate to. And we still have to, of course, want to relate to that, and relate to that in a positive way, but it helps to know a lot that this is the way the person is. So it eliminates misunderstandings. Certain people are just unorganized. You come to their home, everything is strewn all over the floor. There are people who are just opposite. They're so clean and organized, they can't live with that. Imagine if they're married to each other. It's a disaster. Right? So what is the person who's organized and clean supposed to do? Yell, get upset, nervous, uptight, depressed. All kinds of reactions can come to him by seeing this. That's the way she is, or he is. I can't blame the women or the men. I have to be fair. That's the way that individual is, messy. Therefore, since they're probably never going to change, you have to be realistic. They can try, of course, to get a little bit better, but assume the worst, statistically. I'm going to get a maid. I'm going to spend a little bit more money and get her or him the help to have the house organized so that I, or whoever is the one that's organized, don't feel upset or nervous about the situation. So you're being smart. Instead of reacting, you're taking action here to avoid a big problem that exists. That's the best thing to do. People have to learn tolerance. People have to learn patience. People have to learn how to deal with certain situations. Last two. Shelcha, no, we said that. Kasher lichos v'noach lirtzot chasid. He's slow to anger but quick to appease. He's a chassid. We saw the word chassid before. This is the good man. This is the man that doesn't get angry just about anything. He's slow to anger. He's a chassid, however. Why is he a chassid? Because he worked on this. He's not born like that. Chassid, nobody's born a chassid. You become one. So he has adapted certain midot, certain behaviors. He has disciplined himself and he has become chassid. So this tells us that a person can become a chassid. It doesn't have to be, doesn't have to remain with his deficiencies all his life. Now, does it say about the chassid that he never gets angry? No. It just says kasher lichos. Look, even on the chassid, it doesn't say he never gets angry. You know, somebody who never gets angry is an angel. He's not even a chassid. He doesn't belong in this world. Right? So that does not exist. It doesn't say he never gets angry, a chassid. No, a chassid can get angry for the right reasons, and very rarely. Kasher lichos, it says. He tries to avoid it. He doesn't really rush to get angry and upset at every little thing that bothers him. What are you going to be bothered by? He's a chassid. And the last one, noach lichos v'kasher lirtzot rasha. He's easy to anger and hard to appease. He has all the extremes. Quick to anger, hard to appease. He's a rasha. Again, we're dealing with an individual whose whole composition is a rasha. What does that mean, that he's all rasha? He's a rasha. He's being called a rasha, even though in some other area maybe he's not a rasha. How could you call him a rasha? Just for this alone? Yes. When a person is like this, noach lichos v'kasher lirtzot, he's basically has no control over himself. That's what it means. When a person has no control over himself, no control, it means that he's capable of doing almost anything wrong. That's why he's a rasha. That midah, that tchuna, that characteristic, it's not the individual's, it's deot, it's temperament, it's characteristics. This kind of a personality, this kind of a temperament is a temperament that belongs to a rasha. It is indicative that he has no control, no discipline. He's quick to anger, doesn't subside, is not easily appeased. That's the kind of individual who's self-centered, who's into himself, is not interested in what you tell him. And that's why this characteristic is called the characteristic of rasha. A rasha usually is very into himself. And that's what this particular midah shows, that he is involved or he's completely possessed by himself in an evil way. Wanting things for himself, or being upset of things that didn't go his way, or just not being happy with the way things are going. All of this shows a very, very negative outlook towards people, towards life in general. And that is that this kind of an individual is called a rasha. It's not a good person. And finally, we need to remember what Kohelet tells us. Kohelet tells us, "Hakaas bechekes elim yanuach." Anger resides in the lap of the fools. It resides with fools. A person who's always getting angry, he's a fool. Why is that? Because it shows that he doesn't really understand what life is all about. It shows that he's silly for getting angry about things that don't need to be angry. He's silly or ignorant because he doesn't realize that because of the anger he's going to lose friends and going to destroy his marriage, perhaps even lose his job. Therefore, anger is with the fools. If a person was smart, he would realize that this is unhealthy, not good, doesn't lead anywhere, I don't gain anything from it, but he's not thinking right. So therefore, Kohelet says it's in the hek, it's lying with the fools. But what exasperates it, or exacerbates it, even more, is not just ignorance, it's arrogance. So the rabbis tell us in Sifrei Musar that kas, the root of kas, is gava, is arrogance. If a person would not be arrogant, he would not easily become angry. So what we learn from this, therefore, is that a Hasid is so different from a Rasha in a very, very important way. Two important ways. He is more humble. And number two, he learns. He must be learning. And when you learn Torah and you adapt humbleness, you realize so much about life. And you realize what is worth pursuing, what is worth being strict about, what is worth just giving up, what is worth being forgiving about. And ultimately the combination of humbleness and learning leads to tremendous strength and discipline. As the rabbis tell us, Eizu Gibor HaKoveshet Yitzro. Who is really a strong man, the strongest man of all? One who is able to restrain himself, one who is able to control himself, one who is able to discipline himself. That is real gvura. But that gvura, where does it come from? You're not born with that either. It comes from training yourself, and what helps that is, of course, having the right outlook about life, a positive outlook about life. And of course, a positive outlook about life is very greatly helped by having bitachon b'Hashem, by having trust in Hashem, by being a happy person, a happy disposition, by being humble, submissive, not relying on people, not having to come unto people, not needing, being happy with and content with what you have. All of these midot are so important because they contribute so much to the growth of an individual. A person who doesn't grow in midot is stuck and is going to have a very hard time making any changes. The good news is that no matter what a person was when he was born, no matter what he was when he was a child, if he applies the right derech, the right approach in dealing with these midot, he can always become a chassid and a tzaddik. Anyone can become a chassid. It's anybody, no matter how difficult it may be. The greatest proof is people who have done teshuvah, who have come from the other end of the spectrum, from the other extreme. They can do teshuvah. Non-Jews can convert. Anybody can become a better person. Yes, the nature is not going to change. The inner nature stays what it is. But by refining it, we become strong enough to control it. We should be able to control ourselves and become all Hasidim.
Amen.